The cry in the snow the wind was sharp enough to cut through clothing. And the endless white of the alien tundra stretched in every direction. Marcus sat in the cockpit of the small human cargo shuttle, eyes fixed on the navigation screen beside him. Leah adjusted the thermal gauges, her voice calm but strained. "If this storm gets worse, we'll have to land early." Marcus nodded. But his gaze flicked outside through the swirling snow. Something moved. It was faint, like a shadow shifting against the wind. But it caught his eye immediately. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead against the glass. "Leah, did you see that?" She glanced up. "See what?" He pointed, there by that broken tree, something small. Leah squinted, but only saw white. "Probably just ice breaking," she said. But Marcus wasn't convinced. "Drop us lower," he ordered, adjusting the controls. The shuttle descended, its engine sending clouds of snow swirling upward. And then Leah saw it too, something tiny, crouched beside the half-buried trunk. Marcus brought the shuttle down gently onto the ice, the landing skids crunching against frozen ground. He grabbed his thermal jacket and stepped into the open air. The cold hit like a wall, stealing his breath, but he pushed forward. Snow crunching under his boots. The shadow became clearer, small arms wrapped around thin knees. A small head bowed low, trembling. It was a little girl, an alien child. No more than 7 years old. Her skin pale blue, speckled faintly with white spots. Her long silver hair was tangled and frozen at the ends. Her thin clothing was soaked through, the frost clinging to it like a second skin. Beside her lay the body of a man taller, broader, with similar blue skin. His eyes closed. The snow had almost covered him entirely. Marcus knelt slowly, his gloved hands open so she could see he meant no harm. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly. The girl looked up, her eyes were red and swollen from crying, and her lips trembled. "Papa won't wake up," she whispered in a voice so small he barely heard it over the wind. Marcus felt something twist inside his chest. He glanced at the man's body, no sign of movement. No breath. Leah ran up behind him, her own jacket flapping in the wind. "Oh my God." "She's freezing," Leah muttered, dropping to her knees. She took the thermal blanket from her pack and wrapped it gently around the child. The girl flinched at first, but then clung to Leah's arms, her body shaking. Marcus leaned closer. "What's your name?" she sniffled. Arya. Marcus repeated softly. "We're going to help you, okay? You're safe now." But Arya's gaze kept going back to the body beside her. "Papa said we'd be home by night." Then he fell, and he didn't get up. Her voice cracked. Marcus glanced at Leah, and they shared a silent look. This wasn't just cold weather. Something else had happened. Leah tried the cum on her wrist, calling for the human rescue team stationed at the colony nearby. Static hissed back, the storm blocking most of the signal. Marcus cursed under his breath. They'd have to move fast before the cold claimed the child too. He lifted Arya into his arms. She was so light, it was like holding a bundle of twigs. Her head rested against his shoulder, her breath shallow and quick. But when Marcus turned to head toward the shuttle, she grabbed his jacket. Her voice was desperate. "Don't leave, Papa." Marcus hesitated, looking back at the frozen body. The wind howled, and for a moment he thought he saw something far off in the snow atoll. Thin shadow moving between the drifts. It was gone in an instant, but the hair on his neck stood up. Leah's voice was urgent. "Marcus, we need to go. Now." But Arya shook her head, her tears freezing on her cheeks. "He'll be cold." "We can't leave him." Marcus sighed heavily, then stepped back to the body. He and Leah worked quickly, lifting the man's weight into the shuttle. Wasn't easy. Frozen limbs made him stiff, the snow clinging stubbornly as they closed. The hatch, the wind outside seemed to grow louder, almost like a low growl. Arya clung to Leah's arm, still shivering, Marcus glanced once more out into the storm and swore he saw that shadow again. Closer this time, something was out there. Moving against the wind, watching them, he tightened his grip on the shuttle controls. Whatever it was, he had a feeling their night was far from over. The shuttle's heaters roared to life, but the cold clung to everything inside like an unwelcome ghost. Leah sat on the bench beside Arya, tucking the blanket tighter around her fragile frame. The little alien girl's skin still had that bluish tint from the frost, but her trembling was slowing. Marcus kept glancing back from the pilot's seat, his hands steady on the controls. Outside, the storm howled against the metal hull. He tried to come again, speaking slowly into the mic. Rescue command. This is Shuttle Eco 7. We have a child in critical condition, requesting immediate pickup. Only static hissed back, occasionally broken by faint, distorted voices that vanished before he could respond. He cursed quietly and switched to the backup frequency. But the signal was just as bad. Leah stroked Arya's hair. "We'll get you somewhere warm," she said gently. But the child only stared at the floor, her small fingers gripping the blanket so hard her knuckles turned pale. "She's still in shock," Leah murmured to Marcus. "We need to keep talking to her." Marcus nodded but kept his tone calm. "Arya, do you know how far your home is from here?" The girl hesitated. "Far." "Past the ice cliffs," Leah's brow furrowed. "What were you and your father doing out here in the storm?" Arya's lips trembled. "Papa said we needed to leave." Before the ice hunters came, Marcus froze, the phrase echoing in his head. "Ice hunters? What are those?" The girl didn't answer. She only pulled the blanket over her head like she was trying to hide. Marcus exchanged a tense glance with Leah. He'd heard rumors from other pilots about things that lived in the deep snow, predators that didn't fear cold or distance. But most humans dismissed them as alien folk stories. Still, the way Arya's voice shook when she said it made his gut twist. He eased the shuttle forward, flying low to avoid the worst of the winds. Leah checked the vitals on her wrist. Scanner. The girl's body temperature was dangerously low, but rising. "Marcus, she's stable for now, but we need a med team within the hour," she warned. He nodded, pushing the throttle a little harder. The hull rattled as the wind slammed against it. Marcus adjusted their heading toward the human colony's coordinates. "Once we hit the ridge, the signal should clear," he muttered. But Leah wasn't listening. She was looking past Arya at the frost-covered window. Something large moved in the snow outside, keeping pace with them. She leaned closer, trying to get a clearer view. A long, dark shape, taller than a man, slipped between snowdrifts before vanishing again. Her pulse quickened. "Marcus, we're not alone out here." Marcus didn't turn his head, but his jaw tightened. "I know. I saw it back where we landed." Arya's voice was barely a whisper. "It follows death." Leah's stomach nodded. "What do you mean?" The girl's eyes were wide and glassy. "When someone dies, it comes to take them away." Marcus tried to keep his voice steady. "Is that why your father told you to run?" Arya nodded slowly, her tiny hands clutching the blanket even tighter. Leah bit her lip, unsure if the child's words were superstition or warning. Marcus decided not to argue whether real or not. Something was out there, and he didn't like how close it felt. The shuttle shook violently as a gust slammed into it. Marcus gritted his teeth, pulling up slightly to avoid skimming the jagged ice below in the corner of his eye. He caught sight of movement again, this time closer, a shadow, gliding over the snow, far faster than anything should move in this storm. Leah kept her arm around Arya, trying to shield her from the sight. Marcus spoke into the come again, forcing the words through static. "Rescue command. Hostile movement detected. Possible pursuit, requesting armed escort on arrival." Still no answer. The cold feeling in his gut deepened. Minutes passed, each one dragging slower than the last. Arya finally spoke again, her voice trembling. "If you take Papa, it will come." Marcus met her gaze in the mirror. "We're not leaving him out there." Her eyes filled with fresh tears. Then, "You must promise. Promise you won't let it touch him." Leah squeezed her hand. "We promise." Marcus echoed the words firmly. "I swear, Arya. We'll keep you both safe." For the first time, the girl looked at him directly, as if testing whether she could trust him. Outside, the wind screamed, but somewhere beneath it, Marcus thought he heard another sound, a deep, resonant growl, distant but getting closer. Leah's hand moved to the emergency flare launcher at her belt. Marcus checked the fuel levels. They had enough to make the colony if they weren't delayed, but something told him delays were coming. The radar pinged faintly, showing an intermittent blip behind them. It faded, then returned. Always just. Out of range, Marcus muttered under his breath. "It's following us." Leah glanced toward Arya, who had closed her eyes tightly. Whispering in her own language, a prayer, Marcus guessed. Though the words were strange and harsh, the colony's ridge was still miles away. The storm thickened, swallowing visibility until the shuttle was flying blind except for the instruments. Marcus adjusted course again, his knuckles white on the controls. Whatever was out there wasn't going to stop just because they were in the air. And deep down, he knew the promise he'd made to the tiny alien girl was going to be tested before this night was over. The storm outside was no longer just noise, it felt alive. Each gust shook the shuttle in sharp bursts, making the metal groan as if it were under pressure from something unseen. Marcus's eyes darted between the controls and the blurry whiteness. Outside, the ridge ahead was still nothing more than a faint outline on the nav map. Leah kept one arm around Arya, holding her steady as the shuttle jolted again. The girl was whispering to herself, the same short phrase over and over in her alien tongue. Leah leaned down, trying to catch the meaning, but Arya shook her head. "It's not for humans to hear." The radar screen pulsed. A red blip flickered into view just behind them. Marcus leaned closer, frowning. "It's there again." Leah glanced at the display. Could be ice debris in the air. But Marcus shook his head. Ice doesn't pace us like a predator. Before Leah could reply, a loud metallic scrape echoed from the shuttle's hull. It was sharp, almost like claws dragging across metal. Arya gasped and buried her face into Leah's coat, her small body trembling. "It's here," she whispered. "It's hunting us." Marcus scanned the side camera feed through the haze of snow. A massive shape darted alongside the shuttle. It moved impossibly fast, almost gliding over the ground. Two faint amber lights glowed through the white eyes, unblinking and fixed on them. The shape disappeared again, swallowed by the storm. Leah gripped the edge of her seat. "How big is it?" Marcus's voice was tight. "Big enough that I don't want it getting close." The cum crackled suddenly, a faint voice pushing through the static. "Eco 7, do you copy?" Marcus grabbed the mic. "Yes. This is Eco 7. We have a child evac. Possible hostile pursuit. Need coordinates to Aurora Station." The signal broke, replaced by static and fragments of words. "Hold. Position storm can't reach." Marcus slammed the cum down. "They can't get to us until the weather clears." Leah's jaw tightened. "Then we keep moving." The shuttle lurched violently as something struck the hull again, this time harder. Marcus fought the controls, leveling them out. The impact hadn't pierced the hull, but it had left a dent the size of a man's torso. The shadow flashed across the left side window. Marcus caught the brief outline of crystal-like spines running down its back. Arya's voice was almost a wail now. "It smells him, it smells Papa." Marcus's stomach turned. "You're saying it's following the body?" Arya nodded without looking up. "It doesn't stop until it takes them away." Leah's eyes flicked to the rear compartment where the man's body lay wrapped in a blanket. It was strapped down, but the thought of something outside trying to claim it sent a chill down her spine. The storm suddenly parted for a moment through the swirling snow. The creature appeared fully visible for the first time. It was monstrous, its long limbs ending in jagged claws, its body covered in translucent, ice-like armor that caught the faint light. The amber eyes burned like twin lanterns. Its head was narrow and wolf-like, but its mouth stretched too wide, filled with uneven, jagged teeth. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Every instinct screamed to get higher, faster, farther. He pushed the engines, the shuttle lifting sharply. The creature leapt straight up from the snow and slammed into the air just below them. The force of its jump was unnatural. Leah grabbed the side rail as the shuttle tilted from the impact. Arya screamed, clutching Leah's jacket. "It won't stop. It won't stop." Marcus gritted his teeth. "We'll make it stop." The radar beeped again. Now the red blip was moving faster. It wasn't falling behind anymore. It was closing the gap in midair. Marcus's pulse thundered in his ears. They weren't outrunning it, not in this storm. "We'll have to go low," he muttered. Leah's eyes widened. "Low." "There's jagged ice everywhere." Marcus's tone was grim. Better than letting it crawl onto the hull, he angled the shuttle downward, weaving between spires of frozen rock that jutted up from the ground. The storm muffled sound, but every so often, the sharp tap of claws on metal echoed above them. Leah loaded the emergency flare gun, her hands shaking but steady enough to aim if needed. Arya peeked from the blanket, her voice quiet but certain. "It's not here to eat. It's here to take him to the deep ice." Marcus didn't ask what that meant. He didn't want to know, at least, not until they were safe. The ridge loomed ahead, a jagged wall of black ice against the white sky. Beyond it lay the signal range for the rescue team, but between them and the ridge, the radar now showed 2 blips. Marcus's blood ran cold. "There's more than one." Leah's grip tightened on the flare gun. "Then we better reach that ridge before they do." The ridge was close. Now so close that Marcus could see its sharp black peaks through the curtain of snow, but the radar was still blinking with 2 red blips. Both moving fast, both closing in. The storm seemed to swirl tighter around them, as if trying to hide what was coming. Leah kept her eyes on the side window, the flare gun loaded and ready. Arya sat pressed against her side, the blanket pulled up to her chin, her wide eyes unblinking. A loud thud hit the roof of the shuttle. The whole craft dipped to the left as Marcus fought the controls. Another thud, this time on the rear hatch. Metal groaned under the pressure. "They're trying to get in." Leah shouted over the noise. Marcus's voice was sharp. "Hold on." He pulled the shuttle into a sudden drop, swooping low to skim over the snow. The change in angle threw the weight on the roof off balance, and something slid with a scraping noise toward the tail. A high-pitched screech rang out, an unnatural mix of ice cracking and metal tearing. Marcus risked a glance at the rear camera feed. A massive clawed hand gripped the tail fin, jagged ice-like spines along its arm glittering faintly in the dim light. Leah fired through the emergency port, the flare gun hissing a bright streak. Across the creature's face, the beast let out a deafening roar, releasing its grip, and dropped into the snow below. But the victory lasted only seconds. The second blip on the radar suddenly surged ahead. Marcus squinted through the windscreen, just in time to see a second creature leap from a ridge. It slammed into the front of the shuttle, claws scraping against the glass, its amber eyes locked on Marcus. Unblinking, he banked hard to the left. Throwing it off, it landed on all fours in the snow. Running alongside them with impossible speed, inside the shuttle, the air was tight with fear. Arya clung to Leah's arm and cried out, "They can't be killed." "Not unless," she stopped, her voice catching. "Not unless what?" Marcus demanded. The girl swallowed hard. "Not unless they are burned." All the way through, Leah loaded another flare. Guess we'll test that theory. The ridge was almost beneath them when the first creature returned. It leaped from the shadows of a snowbank, slamming onto the roof again. The shuttle dipped, dangerously close to the jagged ice. Marcus was fighting for control, but the weight on top was too much. "We have to land," he shouted. Leah looked at him like he was insane. "Land? Out here. If we stay in the air, they'll tear us apart." He barked back. He searched for a flat spot, eyes darting across the frozen terrain. A wide stretch of packed snow appeared near the ridge's base. Marcus set the shuttle down hard, the skids grinding against ice the second the engine slowed. The roof groaned. One of the creatures was already moving toward the hatch. Marcus grabbed the emergency plasma rifle from its case. Leah kept the flare gun in hand. Arya stayed huddled behind the bench, whispering something too soft to hear. The hatch door slammed open under a heavy blow. Snow and wind exploded into the cabin as the first creature crouched in the doorway. Up close, its size was staggering twice the height of Marcus, its crystal spines dripping with frost. Marcus fired, the plasma bolt striking its chest. The energy hissed against the ice-like armor, melting a layer before cooling instantly. The creature screeched in fury, stepping forward. Leah fired the flare gun at point-blank range. The burning flare embedded in its chest, glowing bright as steam, hissed from the melting armor. The beast shrieked and staggered backward into the snow, thrashing violently, but the second one was already there, circling to the rear of the shuttle. Marcus heard its claws scraping the hull and spun around. "Leah, keep it away from the girl." She stepped between Arya and the sound, raising the flare gun again. Marcus stepped out into the snow, the cold biting instantly through his jacket. The second creature emerged from the storm like a phantom, lowering its head to charge. He fired 2 plasma bolts, one to its shoulder, one to its legs, lowering it but not stopping it. It lunged. Marcus rolled aside, the claws slashing deep gouges into the ice where he had stood. The first creature, still burning from the flare, let out one final roar before collapsing into the snow. Its armor cracked, the light in its eyes fading. Marcus realized Arya had been right. The fire had killed it, but the second beast was still moving, faster now, rage fueling it. Leah fired again, striking it in the neck with another flare. The creature howled, stumbling toward the shadows. Marcus kept his rifle aimed, ready to finish it, but it disappeared into the white, leaving only the echo of its roar. The snow fell quieter now, though. The wind still whispered against the ridge. Marcus turned back toward the shuttle. Leah stood in the doorway, Arya still clutching her side. The girl looked at the fallen beast and then up at Marcus. "You kept your promise," she said softly. Marcus glanced at the dark storm beyond the ridge. He had a feeling they weren't finished yet. The dead creature lay sprawled in the snow, its spines cracking under the heat still radiating from the flare lodged in its chest. Steam rose from its shattered armor, and the air smelled faintly of burnt frost. Marcus stood over it, his breath clouding in the freezing air, his plasma rifle still raised. Leah climbed down from the shuttle, her boots crunching against the ice. Arya remained in the doorway, clutching the blanket as if it were a shield, her wide eyes fixed on the corpse. The storm had quieted just enough that they could hear each other without shouting. Leah's voice was tense. "Marcus, look at this." She knelt beside the creature's head, brushing snow away from its face, up close. Its features were more complex than he'd thought. Not just a mindless beast, but a predator with alien intelligence in its amber eyes. Its jaw was lined with crystalline fangs, each one glimmering faintly in the pale light. Marcus knelt too, noticing strange symbols etched into some of the ice-like plates on its shoulders. "These markings, they look carved," he muttered. Leah frowned. "You think someone made them?" Before Marcus could answer, Arya's small voice cut through the silence. they're not born. They're chosen. Both humans turned to look at her. She stepped down from the shuttle slowly, her bare feet crunching softly in the snow. Her gaze didn't waver from the creature's face when someone dies on our lands. The elders call the ice hunters, she said quietly. They take the body to the deep ice so the soul will not be trapped in the snow. Marcus exchanged a glance with Leah. So it's a ritual. Arya nodded. But these, she gestured to the creature's spines. These are not the old hunters. These are marked. That means they belong to the Death Clan. Leah crouched. Death Clan. Arya's eyes flicked toward the storm. They are not holy hunters. They are taken from the deep ice and changed. To serve the clan's will, Marcus studied the corpse again, the spines, the unnatural speed, the markings. It made sense. Now this wasn't just a predator. It was a weapon, and the Death Clan sent them. For your father, Marcus asked. Arya hesitated, then nodded, her voice barely audible. Papa once escaped them. They never forget. A sudden gust of wind howled through the ridge. Marcus's instincts screamed. This wasn't just weather. Shifting, he scanned the horizon, and there, faintly visible through the swirling snow, was a second set of tracks, bigger than the first creatures. Moving parallel to their landing site. They're not done, Marcus muttered. Leah's hand tightened on her flare gun. How many more? Arya lowered her head. As many as it takes to bring him back. The body of Arya's father lay inside the shuttle. Still wrapped and strapped down, Marcus thought of the way the creature had followed them, never chasing him or Leonli. Circling toward the rear where the body was. They don't care about us. He said, they just want him. Leah shook her head. Then why attack? Why not just wait until we set down somewhere? Arya answered without looking up, because you are humans. And humans don't give the dead away. Marcus straightened. She's right. If they want him, they're going to keep coming. Until they take him, more we end them. Leah eyed the ridge's jagged walls. We can't outfly them in this storm. We'll have to make a stand here. Marcus looked down at the corpse at his feet. The steam still curling off it, he thought. Of Arya's earlier words burn all the way through. The plasma rifle could weaken the armor, but only fire had finished the job. They had 3 flares left, 2 thermal charges, and the emergency incinerator in the shuttle storage. Leah must have read his mind because she said, if we can. Trap them between the ridge and the shuttle. We can use the thermal charges. Marcus nodded slowly and finished them with fire. Arya stepped forward, her voice firm for the first time. I know where they will come from, she pointed. Toward a narrow split in the ridge, a path just wide enough for a man to walk through. They always follow the wind. It will guide them straight to us. Marcus checked the time on his wrist. Display visibility was dropping fast. They didn't have hours. They might have minutes. Leah, get the charges set along that pass. I'll rig the incinerator for manual trigger. Leah hesitated. And? What about the body? Marcus looked toward the shuttle. We keep it inside until it's over. If they see it, they'll tear through us to get it. As Leah moved off toward the pass, Marcus stayed near Arya. She was shivering again. But her eyes were locked on the storm. They'll come soon, she said softly. And the wind will tell you before you see them. Marcus studied her for a moment. You're not afraid of them, are you? Arya shook her head slowly. I am afraid of what they will do to Papa if they win. Somewhere beyond the ridge, a low, echoing roar rolled across the snow. It was deeper than the first 2 creatures. Heavier. Marcus tightened his grip on the rifle. Whatever was coming this time, it was bigger. The roar rolled over the frozen land like distant thunder. It rattled the air, made the snow shift on the ridge, and sent an invisible chill through Marcus's spine. Leah was crouched near the narrow pass, planting the second thermal charge. Her gloved fingers moved quickly, despite the biting cold. Arya stood near the shuttle, the blanket pulled tightly around her, her gaze fixed on the direction of the sound. The cum crackled suddenly, sharp and loud in Marcus's calf, and loud in Marcus's ear. "This is Rescue Command Echo 7. Do you copy?" He slammed the transmit button, loud and clear. "We're at the South Ridge, coordinates hold position," the voice cut in. "We're inbound with 2 armed escorts, ETA 3 minutes. Marcus's eyes scanned the storm. 3 minutes might be too long. The voice on the other end didn't waver. "Then make it count. We'll come in hot." Another roar closer. This time, the wind picked up, carrying with it a strange humming sound. It wasn't mechanical lit, was deep, almost like chanting. Marcus's gut twisted. "Leah, now." Leah scrambled back from the pass, the last thermal charge armed and ready. The snow in the split began to swirl unnaturally, funneling inward, and then they appeared 2 creatures, each bigger than the one they had already killed. Their spines were longer, their claws thicker, and their amber eyes burned with unnatural light. They moved in perfect unison, their long limbs sliding them across the snow without slowing. Between them came a third shape, massive, almost twice their size. Its armor was darker, almost black, with deep crimson markings etched into its chest. Marcus didn't need to ask. This was the leader. "Wait," Arya whispered, stepping forward slightly. "That one? He's marked by the Death Clan elder." Leah shot her a glance. "And what does that mean?" Arya's voice trembled. "It means he will not stop until he has what he came for." The creature slowed at the pass, sniffing the air. Marcus crouched low behind the boulder, plasma rifle ready. Leah's hand hovered over the detonator for the thermal charges. The leader stepped forward, its glowing eyes scanning the ground. It tilted its head listening. Then, with a sudden burst of movement, it charged. "Now?" Marcus shouted. Leah slammed the detonator. The charges erupted in blinding flashes of orange, heat tearing through the snow. The first 2 creatures shrieked, collapsing mid-leap, their armor cracking under the sudden burn. The leader roared, not in pain, but enraged, and barreled straight through the fire. Steam hissed off its armor, but it didn't slow. Marcus fired 3 plasma shots, each one slamming into its chest. The ice plates melted in patches, but the thing kept coming. It swung one massive claw toward him. Marcus dove aside, the impact smashing into the boulder and shattering it into icy chunks. Leah fired the flare gun. The shot struck the leader's shoulder, embedding deep. Flames hissed against the dark armor, but the creature barely flinched. The cum burst to life again. "Echo 7, we have visuals 10 clear." Marcus grabbed Arya and pulled her back toward the shuttle. The sky above split as 2 human dropships descended through the storm. Their engines roared, throwing snow outward in massive clouds. Mounted railguns opened fire, sending streams of glowing rounds into the remaining creatures. One of the escorts strafed low, its heavy cannons tearing into the leader's side. But the monster was relentless. It leapt soaring higher than seemed possible and slammed into the side of the score. The dropship metal buckled under the impact, the ship spiraling away toward the ridge. "Leah, get Arya inside the shuttle now," Marcus yelled. He grabbed the emergency incinerator from the cargo compartment. Hauling it into the open, the leader turned toward him, its amber eyes burning hotter. Snow hissed and melted under its feet as it approached. Marcus primed the incinerator. The device hummed, heat building inside until the air shimmered around it. The leader lunged. Marcus triggered the blast, a stream of fire erupting in a blinding arc. The flames hit the creature full in the chest. Wrapping around it like a living thing, its scream tore through the air, a horrible, echoing sound that made even the rescue team pause. Its armor shattered, the crimson markings glowing briefly before fading into ash. The beast staggered, claws twitching, and then collapsed into the snow, smoke rising from its body. Silence followed, broken only by the hum of the dropships circling overhead. Leah emerged from the shuttle with Arya, both staring at the smoking remains, the rescue commanders. Voice came over the comm, calm but firm. Area secure. You're clear for evac. Marcus exhaled slowly, lowering the incinerator. Arya looked up at him, her voice soft but certain. You kept your promise again. Marcus gave a faint smile. And I'll keep it as long as you need me to, as the dropship doors opened for them. The wind carried the last traces of the leaders roar away into the storm, but Marcus couldn't shake the feeling. The Death Clan wouldn't forgive this asterisk. The dropship's engines rumbled as it cut through the thinning storm. Inside, the heat was a welcome change from the biting cold outside. Marcus sat with Arya on one side of the cabin, Leah across from them, still holding the flare gun in her lap as if expecting another attack. The medics moved quickly, wrapping Arya in fresh thermal blankets and checking her vitals. She didn't resist, but her eyes kept drifting to the small viewport where the endless white was fading into shadow. Through the glass, Marcus could see the ridge growing smaller. Behind them, somewhere down there, lay the bodies of the ice hunters. Steam still probably rose from the leader's charred armor, a dark mark against the snow, and deeper still, in places no human had ever dared to go, the Death Clan would hear of what had happened. Marcus knew this was not over, only paused. The medic scanned Arya again. Hypothermia risk is low now, but she's malnourished and dehydrated. Leah leaned forward. She's going to be fine, right? The medic gave a small nod. With rest and food. Yes. Arya didn't respond. Her gaze fixed on the distance. Marcus tilted his head. What's on your mind? Her voice was soft. Papa would have wanted to be buried under the ice, like our people do. Marcus hesitated. We can arrange something. She looked up at him, her small face serious, but not where they can find him. They landed at Station Aurora just as the first stars began to show through the thinning clouds. The station's steel towers stood tall against the snowy horizon, their lights casting a golden glow on the ice. Humans in heavy coats rushed to meet them as soon as the hatch opened. Warm air spilled out, carrying the faint scent of machinery and cooking food. Arya's nose twitched at the smell, and for the first time, she showed a tiny, hesitant smile inside. The station felt almost alien compared to the frozen wasteland outside. Metal floors hummed underfoot, heaters hummed along the walls, and the air was heavy with warmth. Leah guided Arya to the mess hall, where a steaming bowl of broth awaited her. The girl held the cup with both hands, sipping slowly. Her shoulders began to relax for the first time since they had found her. Marcus stepped aside with the station commander. They spoke quietly, but Arya's sensitive hearing caught pieces of it. Death Clan, if they sent a leader, they'll send more. We can't leave her unprotected. Human custody might be safest. When Marcus returned, she was staring at him, as if already knowing what he would say. You'll stay here for now, he told her, where it's safe. But Leah and I will be here too. Her small hand reached out, curling around his sleeve. Humans. They don't give the dead away, she said, echoing her own words from before. Marcus gave a faint smile. Not the good ones. The following days passed in a strange calm. Snow still fell outside. But inside the station, Arya began to adapt. She explored the corridors, peered into the workshops, and even watched the pilots prepare their ships. Leah showed her how to use the station's comm console. Marcus brought her small trinkets from the hangar-worn flight patches, a polished piece of scrap metal shaped into a star. Each time, she accepted them quietly. But her blanket of sadness seemed too thin, piece by piece. One evening, As the sun dipped low over the ice fields, Arya stood beside Marcus at the viewport. They watched the pale light stretch across the snow, turning it almost silver. Do humans have hunters like the ice hunters? She asked suddenly. Marcus thought for a moment. We have soldiers. We fight to protect, not to take what's ours. She looked at him sideways. Then maybe. I will be a soldier when I am grown. He raised an eyebrow. A human soldier. She gave the smallest of smiles, the kind that doesn't give the dead away. The station lights flickered briefly, just a harmless power shift. The engineers would later say, but Marcus found himself staring into the horizon again. In the farthest shadow of the ridge, barely visible in the fading light, two faint amber glows seemed to linger before vanishing into the dark. He said nothing. But his grip on the railing tightened. If the Death Clan came again, they would find this girl was not alone anymore, and somewhere deep in the ice. The hunters would learn humans do not forget their promises.